You're not usually the one that makes us wrap around and behave.
I know.
It's not usually your no.
No,
That's not your
it's
job.
not. All right.
Rhonda, where were you? Oh, you were
welcome.
instigating.
Welcome back to Live the Now with Dr. Suzanne Dobson, Christy Ridley, Rhonda Wells, and Tia Wilkes. And we love having conversations with each other. And so, what we're hoping to do today is share a little wisdom with you and hope that you kind of learn from our mistakes, our stories, and our life. So, today's podcast is What If? And that's a story that comes up many times in our life. I know I've asked that many times. Um, and what if has magical or detrimental emotions behind it, depending on which way it goes. What if it is a term that or a question that is sometimes asked when we're facing struggles or we're facing strife or we're facing, I don't know what the next step is, but I know I've got to take it. And we begin to, some people would say, go down a rabbit hole or into a tornado of emotion of how our life would be different if. So, to kind of start this off, I don't know if you guys remember this story. You may once I start. Um, eighth grade was a pivotal point for me. I was raised in a law enforcement environment, but was told I could never go on the police because of my father. And so I wanted to be a lawyer. In second grade, when everybody was making these cute little dolls to put on the bulletin board of their future career, mine wore a skirt and a blazer and heels. I wanted to be a lawyer. On teacher planning days, I got dressed up and went and sat in the gallery at the courthouse. Oh, it was so much fun. I loved it. Had the best time. Part of it was, Tia, quit shaking your head at me. Part of it was I got to spend some time with my daddy. Part of it was I just liked being there, and I got to know the judges and the attorneys, and that was my world. That was where I was headed. Well, I'm older than these ladies, so when I was in high school or junior high, we were set on a path. If you were college prep, then you had to take certain classes in eighth grade. And then in high school, you went a college prep route or you went general. And college prep was kind of the gifted kids, you had to test into and kind of do. So I went to the counselor and I said, I want to be a lawyer. So I got to go to college. So I need college prep diploma. She gave me the test. I scored a 129 on the IQ. She said I had to score 130 to go into these classes. I asked to take it again. She said no. One shot, one time, that's it. So I stopped by my locker, put all my books in my locker, went to band practice, went home, and at that point I decided I wasn't that smart. I never took another book home. Still made great grades through high school and everything else, but I never took another book home. I never studied because I knew the best job I could get would be a stay at home mom. So high school keeps going. I get engaged or think I'm going to marry, the first love of my life in high school, and he's going into the Navy, and we're planning the wedding, and we break up at Christmas before the wedding in June. And I'm left with I'm not very bright, so what do I do? So I took cosmetology, passed it, but I didn't really want to cut hair. So I thought I can be a school secretary. My cousin was the human resources director for a local school system. I went to her. I said, How do I become a school secretary? She said, you got to take some college classes. Ooh, you know I'm not the bright one, right? You know I'm stupid. You still got to take some classes. I said, okay, I'll take classes until I fail. I started taking classes. I didn't fail. I ended up with a bachelor's in elementary education. I know I'm smarter in second grade, so I got it. Well, I teach all these different grade levels and all this stuff. I don't marry the guy that I'm engaged to for 8 years. I marry somebody else who says, why don't you get another degree? Yeah, I'm not that smart. Give it a shot. I get one master's. Then I decide I want to go into administration. Oh, but to do that, you got to have a master's in administration. I got a second master's. Find out my daughter has a learning disability and I need to know how to help her. I end up with a doctorate. So I left the law behind. And even to this day, I know it sounds really sick, but go with me. I love going into the courthouse. I love being there. I left that dream behind, but there's still times I wonder, what if? Now, I love my life. I've had an incredible life. And I've done things I never thought I'd get to do. And I've got friends I never thought I'd have. And I mean, I'm not questioning where I am. And I'm thankful, so thankful. But what if that counselor, that one person, had given me a shot at college prep classes? What would I have done? As a side note, I ran into her a few years ago at a luncheon.
Wow.
And I introduced myself, had my little name tag on, and it had Dr. Suzanne Dobson on it. And I said, oh, I am so glad you're here. You were my counselor in 8th grade. She said, I was. I said, yes, I think of you often. Matter of fact, I think I've told the story of you many, many times. Oh, thank you. I said, you're the reason I ended up in education and not as a lawyer. And she pauses for a second and she realizes the story isn't the way she thinks it's going to go. And I told her, because of you and what you said that day, I realized I wasn't that smart. And this is the path I've gone on. Oh, well, she started backtracking. I said, it's okay. I've had a great life. It's worked out. I said, but I just wonder, in the course of your career, how many others had a what if that changed? She is the only person in this world that must address me as Dr. Dobson. Because the person who wasn't smart enough for college has 3 college degrees more. So that's my what if. That's my biggest what if.
That's amazing. I've never heard that story.
Oh, you haven't? I thought I told you.
No.
Well,
Amazing.
No, but it's your perseverance, though, that
Oh
made
my
you move
gosh.
forward,
yes.
which was one of your other podcasts. But without that, those other kids that she basically put on a different path could have been,
Wow.
I mean,
What in the world?
Yeah.
That one person.
I let one person
Wow.
yes, dictate what you did.
dictate what I did. And my mother and daddy never knew that story until I graduated with my doctorate.
Unbelievable.
It made mama so mad she couldn't stand it.
I mean, nowadays, that would never happen.
That would
nowadays.
never happen.
There's no
No.
way.
No, it wouldn't.
Oh my goodness.
But, and I look at the individuals in my class who did go the college prep route and did do, and in all honesty, yes, I hope somebody doesn't take offense to this. I am one of the very, very few graduates of my class that does have a doctorate.
Wow.
So when we're talking to people we do need to kind of take in consideration what it is we're saying. But when we're looking back over our life and we are going, what if? We also do need to temper it with, I'm thankful for. Because if I had gone the lawyer route, I wouldn't have known the students I've known. I wouldn't be married to who I'm married. I wouldn't have, and the list just goes on. There's a movie called Mr. Destiny, and it's an older movie with James Belushi. I love that movie. And whenever I start questioning myself as what if, I go back to that movie. Because part of it, he spends the first part of the movie going, if I had hit the ball in the state championship game, my life would be different. And he's able to see how his life would be different. He would be an owner of the company. He would be all of these things. And he realizes he misses the life he had. He doesn't want this what if life. He likes what he has. And he appreciates that. And so, like I said, there have been times over the years where I've had to go back to that movie and sit back with a bottle of Coca-Cola and some popcorn and watch it and go, all right, that's where I am. And then I like what I got. So there's your movie reference for the night. Just saying. It is a good movie.
I want to watch the movie now. But you could make a movie. Oh my gosh. That's just, I'm in awe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I didn't tell you to put you into awe, but like I said, it's just that we get caught up with this one question that we forget what's now. And that what if point, defining moment, whatever you want to call it, is what has sent us to where we are. And, I'm sure ultimately this is where I'm supposed to have been anyway, because of having had the life I've had, so.
I'm trying to picture her as a lawyer. I can see it. I can see it. She would have been an amazing lawyer.
You see her in heels?
Yes. Heels,
Click, click, click,
sport
click, click,
coat.
click.
Yeah, blazer. Yeah,
Mhm.
I can see it.
As a matter of fact, that's the first thing my mom said when I
You
got
would
my
have been
diploma.
legal aid lawyer. Yep.
Mhm. Probably.
Yep.
First thing my mama said when I got my diploma, she looked at it and she goes, "That looks Dr. Suzanne Pope Dobson. I love it. That's my baby." Okay, now when are you going to do that law degree? 15 seconds of, okay, now what? And that's kind of the question we really should be asking. It's not the what if and looking in the past. It's, well, what's next or what now?
Mhm.
And Tia, I put on our little notes here about you in Germany because when we were teaching together, you would look at Germany positions and you talked about going back to Germany quite a few times. And I know I could see in your eyes that was kind of I would really love if this opportunity presented itself. Kind of, how could I maneuver this opportunity to present itself? Tell us.
Well, you're correct. My husband did spend time in Germany, which I didn't really get to spend the time in Germany. He was there, and I stayed here for college to finish school. So it was one of those things where I would have liked to spend more time there, be able to live there. As a history major, that's an area where there's so much history. Europe in
yeah.
itself is just so rich in history. So it's one of those things where it would have been a great opportunity. And so, yes, going back, I did visit, let's put it that way. It would have been nice to be able to go back and be able to live in the culture and see the day to day and be able to go back and see all the history as well while living in that culture. Then we actually had an opportunity come up for us. We had a child. He was all of maybe a year old at the time. And we actually had to have the conversation. Is this something that we want to do? Is it really in our best interest? And knowing that it wasn't, because then you're taking away from family, you're taking away from, I just had gotten a job in education. And so I would be going somewhere and not have a job. He would have had a job, but I wouldn't have had a job. So it's always that starting over thing, and that what if we do it and I don't get a job? So those what ifs you have on the front end as well as the back end. You can always look back, but you also have to think about those on the front end.
That's true.
So we were sitting down with all those what ifs on the front end of going. And you're right. I did look at jobs and just to see if there were things that we could go, because we did have friends who were there because Shane was there for so long. But looking back now and saying, what if, would we have done that? Our lives have been totally different than what it is now. I don't think we would be where we are now in my career or his career, because he definitely wouldn't be in the career he's in now. He would have stayed within aviation. So it's always those type things you have to think about. But I don't think that our child would be where he is in his life if we had went to Germany. I mean, he'd be able to speak German, but I don't think that we would have been, where we are in our careers. And I don't think that I would have went into a career pathway where I said I want to be helping teachers, because it's really all of you who led me in that direction. Now, I think I'm in the right place, but it's not something I think I would have done on my own. So that's one of those what ifs. You go back and look. I said, if I had went to Germany, if we went back, I wouldn't be where I am in terms of this type of career move when I made this move.
So you're happy?
Oh yeah, I don't regret any of my decisions I've made in life.
No, you don't. You no. You are definitely one person who embraces and goes. Whether it's evident in the way you pack up a house or or the way you move. No.
Would it have been nice? Yes. But I would have been going for the wrong reason. Going to study history is not the reason. Wouldn't have been a good reason to go. But staying for a career and building a life is the right reason to stay.
Yeah.
So when we were doing our what ifs on the front end, like I said, you have to look at this in the future things. We were looking at them in the future as opposed to a past. So we were making those decisions on where did we want to be in our lives 20 years down the road. That's how we had to look at it. So
I like that. I never really thought of the what ifs on the front end. I always think, like I said, the back end because of my experience. All right. What about you two?
Nothing comes to mind at the moment.
Rhonda's usually a lot more vocal, but she seems to be reflective all of a sudden.
Well, at least she doesn't regret things, though.
No?
If you don't have things to what if. I know that in terms of students, because we're in a career field in which, in your case, we set paths for people by the things that we say and the things that we do and our actions in the classroom. It's one career in which we really do affect people.
Oh, yeah.
And those what ifs, if we start looking on the front end and saying, what if I do this for this student? It will change our life forever. Or if I can convince that child to just pay attention in class, then that what if for them changes. That pathway changes for them. There's not a lot of careers that have this.
That's true. We had end of the year. It was a few years ago. I don't even know if they still do this. But the math department was doing a statistical analysis. And so they were coming around asking what our 3 wishes were. And to be honest, I wasn't even on the list. I was just coming down the hall. 3 of the students stopped and, hey, Dr. Dobson, What's your 3 wishes? They got out the paper and they'd already written down, money, retirement. I said, no, 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 no. I got money. I don't need to wish for more money. They said, well, we know you're doing the countdown to retirement, so that'd be your first wish. I said, no, I'm on track for that. That's not a wish. That's an accomplishment. They said, well, what do you wish for? I said, well, my first wish would be for my students to see themselves the way I see them. And they stopped. And they looked at me and said, say that again. And I said it again. They wrote it down and looked at it. I don't know what to say. I said, what do you mean? Don't you want my second wish? I think you broke. You broke this. I don't know. And they walked off, still looking at that statement. And it threw me kind of for a loop because I didn't think I was, something all philosophical. And that's just like you said, we set paths, and it's our part of our job, our opportunity is for these students to see who they can be. And so that was my one wish. And no, they didn't even stick around for wishes 2 and 3. And the math teacher called me later and said, you're an anomaly. I said, well, thank God I know what that means, because I think you're saying an ugly word. They said every class doesn't know how to interpret and where your remarks should go. So that was a perfect teaching moment for us. So thank you for saying that. I said, well, I'm glad they want to know what was on my mind. So, you ask, I tell. But we are in this position, and we do wish that students could see their what's next, what's now, and how their lives could be different if they just, what's a better way to say, shut up and listen and do.
That's a hard one.
But that's a perfect example of what if the students did see themselves the way you do.
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, it would.
Absolutely.
Because we do see who they can become. And while we know, as you've mentioned a few times, data doesn't define the person. Data doesn't show that student who may be struggling in math and may be struggling in English, but when given a social studies project, they're the leader, and what they create and all is phenomenal. But that's their one time to shine, because the rest of the time they're not doing so well. Right. So, how do we help people deal with their what ifs, though?
Well, I have a what if. So my defining moment, I'm going to say, was when I was 16. My parents divorced when I was 3. And so we lived in Alabama. So I lived with, my mother had custody. So my dad, he tried to get custody several times, but back then it was always mom.
Yeah.
So he worked in textiles. So he moved. He worked for West Point Pepperell, and they moved him to Rome or Lindale, Georgia, to work there at that mill. And so when he moved, I stayed in Alabama with my mom. And so things rocked on, and I would go visit them when we had a spring break, and I could see how my life there would be versus where I lived in Alabama. And my mom and I had issues. And so when I was 16, I had to make a choice who I wanted to live with. And so it was very hard. It was a very hard decision because I had my grandparents who helped raise me, her mom and dad. And my grandmother, her name was Ruth, she pretty much raised me mainly. And she was amazing, and she passed away of cancer when I was in the 9th grade. And she was kind of the barrier between me and my mom. She helped us get along. And so when she passed away, things got a lot worse with me and my mom. And so I decided, because I was in the band. I mean, I played the clarinet. Nobody knew who I was. My daddy would drive from Rome to Alabama every Friday night to watch me play the clarinet. He had no idea where I was. But just you know what I mean? He would, and my mom lived 5 minutes away, and
She wouldn't come.
never came to a game, that kind of thing. So I could see, where I needed to be. Anyway, so I made the choice. 16 years old, everybody I'd ever known. I was class president of my sophomore class. I had a life. I had a great life. But I knew I didn't know. You know what I mean? I knew what I needed. I guess God knew what I needed. So I chose to move. I picked it up, didn't know a soul at that school. Moved right into there in January. I moved in the middle of my sophomore year to Pepperell and didn't know anybody. And so started fresh. And luckily, I tried out for the band, and I got in the band, and that helped me to. But that right there, that was a pivotal moment of my life. I still think to this day, what if I had stayed in Alabama? What if I had stayed there with my mom? I don't know what my life would have been like, So I credit the person I am and my personality helping me get through being a new person in a school. So I feel for new people. I feel, when you don't know a soul, who do you eat lunch with? Who do you talk to? I'm, I guess, more outgoing because of that, because I've been through it, and I try to welcome people and make them feel at ease because it's hard, because it's very hard to be the new person, and so that's my pivotal moment.
Well, that's hard to do at that age.
Yeah.
You're already struggling with so much, and
I've seen her yearbook. She was definitely recovered from her move. She did very well at her new school.
oh yeah, yeah. We've seen the pictures. Yes,
That was definitely a successful what if. I mean, when you look back,
Yes.
definitely the decision you made was probably a good one for
Yes.
you.
Definitely.
Yes. She embraced it,
I did.
Good.
I did.
and instead, and at the time you were saying, "What now? What's next?"
Yeah.
And going forward.
I became a majorette, and rest is history. It was a
Did you
great
twirl
time.
fire?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't let us. They thought we'd set the field on fire or our hair on fire. We had the big hair back then.
Hey,
Lots of hairspray.
One of my cousins did the fire.
Ooh,
Ooh.
Yeah, Eastrom. Never caught anything on fire, but and the only reason I remember that was because we were little and Mama would take us to the games, and I was just so entranced
oh
by
yeah,
that
that's
cousin
cool.
Yeah.
twirling fire
Yeah.
on the. I'm sorry, I don't know why that came out,
Yeah.
but
Can you
That's
still
really
twirl
cool.
all the time?
Yeah, I still have them. I get them out every now and again.
oh,
Show the kids.
Lucky Randy.
Hey, he, as a matter of fact, we met on a blind date my senior year, and he came to some of the games, and my parents, he would sit with them, and they made him wear my button, and I would get so nervous, I would drop everything because I knew he was watching. So he didn't think I was a very good majorette because I would drop it. I was so nervous. I'm a dork.
You are not a
You are not a dork.
But just think about it. You made a decision as a 16-year-old that brought you your husband, that gave you a new life, gave you new options, and having been to your hometown and all, those options and all would have been very, very different.
Very.
Nothing against Alabama
Right.
by any ways,
Right,
but just it would have
yeah.
been different.
But both of you gave examples in which the outcome was successful. But you still said, what if?
Yes.
Even with the success.
Hmm.
You do look
So
back
it's
and you think,
natural. It's a natural thing to do.
Yes. And the catch is, I look at it as kind of entertainment, you know? Again, not getting caught up in the circle of emotion of, oh my gosh, if I had, then I would, Supreme Court, here I come. I don't get caught up in that emotion. I enjoy those memories. And when I struggle, I look at, there again, the other podcast, perseverance, the competitiveness of his own now. And if I had that competitiveness and that spirit as an eighth grader, then yes, I would have. But that spirit didn't come till later. And it was when I realized I let one person decide who I would be. And I swore I'd never let another person have that control. So it didn't matter who I dated, who I worked for, anything. Nobody was going to get that control.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do go back to what if, I appreciate the journey and I enjoy it. And I use it for motivation to move on to the next. But there are those who get caught up in the what if and they can't get out of it. So how do we help those individuals get out of the what if? I would have been, if I hadn't stayed in Alabama, could have been could have done, but I'm living here and I'm in bankruptcy and I'm in divorce and I'm in. So how do we help those people who don't take their what ifs and make them a success? How do we help those people?
They have to flip that what if to the future and stop living in the past.
Yep.
They have to say, what if I do this? What if I do this? I've already done the thing in the past is I'm already done.
Right.
So now you got to start doing the what if for the future.
And the what if for the future can go back to those setting goals. I think it can go back to something we hadn't really talked about much, and that's volunteering. In volunteering and we've got all the storms that have happened. And I don't mean like write a check. I'm talking about cleaning out a closet to give to an organization. Actually, going to an area that's been hard hit. We've all got people that we know and love who are trying to help bring lives back together. I think in volunteering, we are giving away, okay, our time, but we're getting so much back that can help the what if become a what's next, a what now, because of that service mindedness. I don't know. What do y'all think?
I think it's important to make sure the kids know um, what if for themselves because a lot of kids don't know, they have no idea what they want to be or why or purpose. But just having conversations with kids and letting them know whatever they want to do, you can help them. And if you can't help them, you know people who can. Um, because what if can be, I can do it, flip of a switch, especially if you have a good support system. And I know because we're all teachers, we support kids and we want them to accomplish their dreams and their what they want to be. And there's a way. Doesn't matter what you want to be. There's a way. You just got to work hard. And I remember my husband also. He said in high school, his counselor told him he'd never go to college, but he had coaches on the football field that secured him a scholarship to play football. So knowing people are there, the kids that we teach need to know they have advocates. all the time. They have advocates. We are their advocates, and we want them to do well, whatever they want to do. When the kid said, "Mama, what do you want me to be?" I said, "I want you to be happy. Choose a job that you're going to
Yep.
get up in the morning and love to go. Don't pick a job that you're going to dread because you got 30 years to dread it. So pick something you love. Pick something that makes you happy. Even if it's a little bit of money, it makes you happy. I'd rather you be happy and poor than, you know, depressed and rich."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a Kenny Chesney song. It's called Rich and Miserable. Now, I'm not pulling quotes out of the verse, but it is it is an exceptional song that kind of goes along with what
Mm-hmm.
you just said. And it ties in with we have to learn from the lessons that we're given. And whether those lessons are from our own personal experiences or from others, we have to learn from those.